Welcome back to MBA Solutions. I am Shravan, Assistant Professor, VVCE, MBA Department, Mysuru. If you are not subscribed our channel, please press subscribe button and bell icon for notification. In our last video, we have discussed on meaning and different types of selling situations. In today's video, we are going to learn and understand selling skills and different selling skills required for a salesperson. First, let's understand what is selling skills. We all know that some skill is required to sell the product or services, and the skills required like communication skills, listening skills, conflict management skills, problem solving skills, and negotiating skills, along with aptitude, will make up the selling skills. So that means these are the essential skills required for a successful salesperson, that are problem solving skills, listening skill, conflict management skill, negotiating skills, and communication skills. These are the must required skill for a successful salesperson. Now, let's go one by one and understand each one of them. First is communication skill. What is communication? Communication is an exchange of idea and information between two parties. Let's dig deep into the communication skills. Today's entire business of modern world sales is based on building a good relationship with the customer. So that means building a good relationship is very important. In the process of building the relationship, the researchers have found that the trust between the buyer and seller is very important, and it is largely based on five elements. The first is truth of the words, second one is predictability, third one is competency, fourth one is empathy, and the last one is likability. Let's go one by one and understand. The first is the truth of the words communicated. In sales, for the meaning of the word trust, the first word T stands for more than the truth. That means if you remove the word T, the rest will be the rest. So for that purpose only, the salesperson should always speak truth to build the trust in the minds of the customer. Second one is predictability of action. That means what you say, that only you should do with the customer. If you promise something to the customer, you keep up the promise. Otherwise, don't promise with the customer. For an example, if you say that tomorrow that you are going to come back once again at 10 o'clock, means be there, because your actions will speak a lot in the minds of the customer. The third is competency. It's all about the ability, the knowledge, or the resources that a salesperson possesses. The fourth one is empathy. A salesperson should always understand the buyer's need and problem and try to solve the problem rather than pushing the product. The last one is likability, a very difficult term to explain, but still with an example will understand. Some customer, by looking at the sales executive, may like it or may not like it. It's all about the perception that the customer develop in their minds. That means whether they like you or whether they dislike you. That is the likability. Now, we'll move on to the different types of the communication. There are two types of communication. First one is personal communication. Second one is non-personal communication. First is personal communication. It is a direct exchange of an information between two persons. Whereas the non-personal communication, here there is no direct communication, but they communicate through an indirect way. Or that is, they may use telephone or advertisement in electronic media or printed media, etc. We'll move on to the communication process. You can see the communication process in the diagram. It involves two party. One is sender and another one is the receiver. The communication process consists of following elements. The first one is the message. The second one is encoding. The third one is sender. The fourth one is channel. The fifth one is the receiver. The sixth one is decoding. The seventh one is perceived message. The eighth one is feedback. And the last one is the noise. Let's go one by one and understand the communication process. The first one is the message, is the idea, the thought, or the information which the sender wants to send to the receiver. The second one is the encoding. It refers to putting the message in a form that can be understood by the receiver. The next one is the sender. He is the person who wants to send the message to the receiver. The next is the channel through which the sender wants the message to be sent, and it is the link between the sender and the receiver, which can be sent through email, face to face, or any other source. The next is the receiver. He is the person who receives the message sent by the sender. The next one is the decoding. It refers to the conversion of message into thought. The next one is the perceived message, what the receivers understand or interpret the message sent by the sender. Then the receiver gives feedback to the sender. It is very important to check the effectiveness of the communication. One cannot be sure that the message that has been encoded, transmitted, and decoded is being properly executed or not until it is confirmed through feedback from the receiver. Then we have the noise, which is the disturbance or which hinders the communication sent by the sender to the receiver. This is how the communication takes place between person to person. We'll move on to body language, which is an important non-verbal communication, because the research has shown that 93% of the communication is non-verbal communication, which includes personal appearance, posture, gesture, facial expression, eye contact, and space distancing. That is why even the body language of a salesperson is important, and that is why we are learning too. Let's go one by one and understand. The first is personal appearance. When you look at this picture, what is your impression? The first picture, this one, will create a positive impression, and this one will have a negative impression. In a perfect world, appearance may not have an impact on the business, but in the real world, unfortunately, it seems to have an impact. The studies have shown that the people considered to be attractive will generate more sales. Since I know this from being in the sales for many years, definitely the buyers do judge it. Even in some of the research in the pharmaceutical sales, the physical attractiveness have a strong correlation with a bias impression. So that is why it is important to be physically attractive when we meet customer. Next is posture. It is important how you hold your body when standing or sitting when you are in front of the customer, because it can make or break the communication, and it shows whether the salesperson is interested in sales or not, and also it conveys the feeling and the attitude also. So it is always better to have a good professional posture, so that not to have a negative attitude in the minds of the customer, which can be prevented with the professional posture. Next is the gesture. It is the movement of the part of the body, especially your hand and head. As a salesperson, it is better not to be aggressive in gesture, since it have a negative impression in the mind of the customer. At the same time, we should also not to be mild also. We should always have a professional way of gesture. Next is facial expression. Human face is extremely expressive and able to express many things without expressing any words. Sometimes the words that you utter may be contraindicated by your facial expression. Even the salesperson might have presented in the best way, but if a salesperson facial expression is does not support, means the customer may not be interested in him, or he may build a negative perception. So that is why it is important for a salesperson to be in a happy face, so that not to have a negative impression in the minds of the customer. Next is the eye contact. Eye contact is the key characteristics of the communication and also expresses much than the word. Eye contact also build or establish the relationship. So it is better to have eye to eye contact with the customer, and also it keeps the customer attentive during the sales process. The next is space distancing. Space distancing with the customer during the sales process is very, very important, because it will make the customer feel comfortable, and also sometimes the customer doesn't like being touched, and spacing vary from individual to individual, and also gender plays a very, very important role. These are the some of the types of the non-verbal communication that a salesperson should follow to have an effective sales presentation and to boost sales. Thanks for watching this video on selling skills. Today we have dealt with the communication skills. We'll meet again. Until then, thank you.